Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Present Pilgrimage. I'm Jennifer.
Yabo.
So we want to talk about in this podcast about the growing list of presidential candidates. And I think in this moment in time, there's things that have sort of broken open. So we have all these different types of people putting their hat in the ring to run for president that maybe normally or you wouldn't really expect. And Yabo and I have our own kind of feelings and opinions about each of them. And I think a way to kind of frame the conversation is through the lens of race, gender, privilege, experience. Those are kind of some of the factors to think about.
Well, I want to start out saying this is for the Democratic stuff. And we are on the heels of all these women that won Senate and House runs. And, we have a Muslim woman, we have a bisexual woman, we have a gay governor. So much has happened politically in the last year that has shifted the dialogue around running for office. But the one thing that we cannot, like the biggest telltale sign that I see right now is that one thing is not an issue, and that's competency.
Okay.
We got some competent folks. Now, a couple of folks are trying to put their feet in there, and I would not qualify them as competent, but competency overall is not the issue. I don't feel like that's the issue in this coming election. So can we start out with those we don't think are totally competent?
Yes, I like how you're saying that, because that competency can involve a lot of different things.
A lot of different things, yeah. So, I don't think number 45 is competent.
No.
I don't think he's mentally competent. I don't think he's intellectually competent to lead.
In many ways.
But, so let's leave that alone. So let me talk about the person I think is at the bottom of the heap of competency, and that's Marianne Williamson. Before I get into this, I want to say this. I don't really feel it's my place to denigrate a human being or call them names like incompetent and all that kind of stuff. But I want to explain why I don't consider her competent. One, she puts herself out there as a spiritual teacher, right? And I've actually listened to some of her stuff. I've quoted her work before. I have no issues with her as a person. But I do believe that that this is how privilege works. You're over here in the spiritual world. You eye the White House, and you just take one smooth sweep step into, I'm running for president. Boom.
Just that easy.
Just that easy. And then you compare side by side to say Stacey Abrams, who's like, okay, I'm ambitious. I have dreams. I know I'm good at leadership. She begins to put herself in places where she can gain experience so that her competency is never at issue. That is a person who does not take for granted that she doesn't have to know what she's doing to do it.
So she has to be 10 times as qualified
10 times.
Professional in order to be considered.
Right. But a Marianne Williamson will just say, okay, I'm running. And that's the end of that.
And Howard Schultz, I think you could put in the
Howard Schultz is right there too.
With her.
Marianne. So, and I think that's how we got number 45.
Yes.
It's a glitzy job. It's president of the most powerful country in the world, or maybe even what used to be the most powerful country in the world. I like it. I'm used to money and privilege. If I want something, I just go after it. So that, I feel, is where she's coming from. I don't know, but I am not entertaining her as a serious candidate.
Well, you mentioned also about her quote about the reparations.
Yeah, oh God. Yesterday I saw that she had said that African Americans should be given reparations of $100 billion. And the reparations, I used to actually feel like, no, we don't, African Americans don't need reparations. And then I came to an understanding that there was a much bigger conversation that was being had about it that I wasn't privy to. And Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote significantly about that in The Atlantic, and he actually won me over. And reparations doesn't just mean you putting money in my hands as a black person, and I'm not African American, so in the hands of an African American, but investing money into black schools, into urban districts, into homes, into loans that are low interest and affordable for black people, supporting black businesses, giving grants to black businesses, eliminating, maybe even paying down school loans for black people, shoring up our HBCUs, our historically black colleges and universities. Those are some of the reparation type of things that reparations actually would cover, right? But back to Marianne Williamson. So reparations is a conversation that we all need to do a whole lot more research on and not say yay or nay just like that. I think there's a huge yay to be said. Marianne Williamson talking about this, my instinct, the minute I read the headline, I got pissed off. I have never heard Marianne Williamson's name in anything racially reconciliatory, right? She's a good teacher of spiritual things. She was Jewish. She went into some, I guess, New Agey type of stuff. She does a Course in Miracles. Mm-hmm. I ain't got no beef with none of that. But, sweetie, you do not know, because if she has been on the front lines of racial and gender parity, we would have heard her name.
Yeah.
And again, I'm using her to point out to all of us that the issue here is how privilege works. We just jump to the head of the line.
Well, it makes me think back about previous presidents then. And obviously, since we've had all male presidents, that's a huge part of it. But it's time to rethink. Yes. It's time to change the paradigm. So let's bring in competency.
Right.
Who is the most competent?
Right.
Versus what's the easiest, but that does, I think, bring up when we were talking about who the ideal candidate for the next.
Right. And like Oprah, there was a lot of talk about Oprah running, and that's part of that privilege thing, right? Lots of white women love Oprah. And Oprah's like, that's not my wheelhouse, right? Let's build our wheelhouse and stay in our wheelhouse. Now back to competence. So most of the black people I know were excited when Kamala Harris was grilling Brett Kavanaugh, right? The woman is, that's a prosecutor there, honey. She, she's made a name for herself, kind of like Auntie Maxine Waters, and how she tears into people. That black woman trope of being strong and competent and unfeeling, Kamala Harris has really stepped into that, right? And so when she announced, though, I want to say very gingerly, I chose to be reserved about it. I didn't repost things on social media. I decided to sit back and process how I was feeling about it. I wasn't excited because I am not a big fan of prosecutors. Yes, I practiced law for a long time. I feel like prosecutors tend to uphold an already toxic institution. The system is toxic. The whole thing needs to be dismantled. You can't slap 5 Band-Aids on it and send it going. It's cancerous. It is toxic towards the poor and towards black people.
I like what you're saying about processing, though, because I think in the age of social media, it's so important to take that step back and not just jump on some reactive, because we're talking about the unfair criticism, the immediate criticism, which can come around the knee-jerk.
Right. Yeah. Now, at the same time, as much as I was like, you're not my candidate, sister, or let me hold on and see what's going here, I started to see how she was being ostracized. Number one, they brought up the birther argument for her. Her mother is in East Indian. Her father was a Jamaican professor. She was born in Oakland, I don't know if it's Oakland. She was born in California. She has a sister and a brother. All very smart people. But she went to Howard University, and she's an AKA Alpha Kappa Alpha, which is the oldest black sorority. Their colors are pink and green. She is clearly identifying with being an African American. But the Bertha thing comes up. The fact that she dated somebody, the former mayor of Chicago, and there was a huge age difference. Her white husband. All this crap comes up. And this is what we do to black women. We are not talking about her competency as a professional. Talk to me about her competency. I don't care who she opened up her legs for. It is not your business, and it is not my business. If we can have what we have right now in the White House, don't you dare open up your mouth to talk about who a woman slept with.
Yeah.
I promise you, you will just see me lose all sanity. Even if she's not my candidate, do not talk about her body. Do not talk about her private
Absolutely.
affairs.
That happened with Stacey, too. And she handled it so well.
Yes.
But she's a strong single woman. I'm a single woman. You're a single woman.
Mm-hmm.
Just any kind of, especially if you're in the public eye or you have people want to speculate and for some reason think that it's like there's either something wrong with you or there's some sordid skeleton in the closet.
Absolutely.
Or, why are you single still? You know, just, you know, a lot of maybe you're a lesbian, you know, it's just so.
No, well, it comes out of thinking of women as property and a trophy to be had. Yeah. She's not a trophy. She's a smart woman. I may not agree with her politics, but her body, what she did with it and who she does it with today is not up for discussion.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, one of the things we're going to talk about in our next podcast is intersectionality. She's black, she's female, and she's the daughter of immigrant parents. That puts her in a very vulnerable place. So for those of you, so even if she's not your candidate competence-wise, like, you know, she may be a little bit too conservative for me because I don't like prosecutors like that, I will defend her to the hills because of that intersectionality. So this is what I meant by I want us to talk about our process. I haven't made up my mind about who my candidate is this year. All I know is I'm excited that Stacey Abrams is going to be giving the rebuttal for the State of the Union. I know I'm Team Stacey.
Well, speak for both of us. We kind of want Stacey to run for president, right?
Stacey just needs to get on in there, right?
Do it.
I mean, like, that's it. Just out of my previous love for her, I won't even entertain anybody else. But the other thing with Kamala Harris that I had to examine for myself is I don't believe she's a bad person, but I do believe that she's an ambitious woman, and she went through this prosecutorial career track because of her ambition, right? I am very comfortable with that. Now, she may come out, she may process and grow through the electoral process and decide this was okay, that wasn't okay. She was against the death penalty. I'm grateful for that. But I want to see her process some of these things publicly and blossom into the fullness of who she is. I don't think she's there yet. But I had to say to myself, am I not okay with her because she was ambitious? No, I'm perfectly okay with her ambition. And I may not have taken her track, right? But ambition's good.
And I think when you're listening to remembering how Stacey acknowledged or addressed any questions or challenges, if she's able to acknowledge and maybe do some public processing and show, I think for me that would be helpful. She may, again, it's up to her and however the public's going to take it.
Right.
You know, that's tough.
But also she's young. You know, as a younger person, you haven't processed. A lot of times politically where you are in your 30s and 40s is very different than where you are in your 60s and 70s.
But I appreciate how Stacey, when she talked about her family's debt and her debt and, you know, things that people could have sort of used against her, she was very open about.
Exactly. And we love that about her.
Yeah.
I could relate to that. So someone else running is Cory Booker. He announced. We love Senator Cory Booker. Also, Michael Bloomberg's running. I kind of like him.
Has he announced officially?
I think so.
Oh, okay. But he's definitely talking about it.
Yeah, he's definitely talking about it. I like him because even though he's a business person and not a career politician, he was the mayor of New York, and he did a lot of good things in New York.
I was living in New York when he was mayor. I agree. He was very good at managing a city. There's no place like New York. It's
nowhere on the
possible task. So
that's a country in it.
Yeah,
it has a budget of a country.
He did a really good job doing it. So to say if that can translate into presidency, I do think he has competency. I think he's got skills.
Yeah.
Is he the best leader for the U.S.? You know? Like, is he going to kind of bring us into the direction that we need to go?
Right. So let me tell you what I'm scared to articulate, but I think is important because I don't want to backlash. But I think it's important to talk about this. I'm kind of wimpy about these elections, and I call it what it is, that I'm wimpy. I feel that it is critically important that no matter what, we get a Democrat in there that's competent. I'm not saying a Democrat at any chance, but, if we have a more competent Republican than the Democrat person, fine, let it be the Democrat. I'm not scared of the principles of the Democratic Party versus the principles of the Republican Party at its core, right? But I feel like, is this the time to push a woman out there or another Black person out there or Latina out there or anything else other than a white male out there? Because I just feel a win is absolutely necessary. And if it's a white man that's going to give us the win, let's do that. And then next time around, deal with this issue of gender or whatever else. And I'm scared. I don't want us to lose because we cannot afford number 45 in there another 4 years.
I think that's a huge point of discussion going on in many circles. And here in Atlanta, there's so much, in my feeling and opinion, there's so much interesting movement. There's such grassroots vitality. There are people who are definitely on the very progressive, quote, left side, kind of Bernie Sanders and left, who feel that that we can't, they would call it a compromise.
Right.
I'm not saying either way, but I think it's very important to talk about this because we need to understand what is involved in these elections. I think people who have certain issues that they want to champion, that they want to keep bringing forward, that we're moving forward on, they don't want to lose ground and feel like we're going to go backwards. Right. So when we're talking about the office of the president, what that represents, what's at stake, right? So you're basically saying, we need to win. We need to win with someone competent. We need to win. And we need to understand how to do that and maybe looking at the country as a whole. Right. People who are more maybe grassroots or activist or, wanting to do more progressive kind of movement with candidates, maybe like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, would probably have some strong response to saying, okay, how do we ensure we win? Is that the priority too for certain activists and people? Because I feel like there are people who are involved in the grassroots movement that want to just keep pushing. Right. Their role is to keep pushing the boundaries. Right. And not look at the outcome. It's not the what is it, the means to the end. Or the ends. Right. So
the process is what's important to them.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
And I agree with that. I'm not saying we shouldn't present female candidates. We shouldn't present minority candidates or Latina candidate or Native American or an LGBTQ candidate. I probably am reacting to the loss we had in Georgia with Stacey Abrams and what it means. That I feel that as much as Stacey was the winner of the war, putting on the map this issue of voting and how we can all do better in our states and in the federal system, I do feel that in the next 4 years, Georgia's going to suffer. Mm-hmm. This state is going to have some major issues we're dealing with.
I can't even go there in my mind to think, what if she were governor, because it's too painful.
It's too painful. And I wonder if my reaction is because of that moderate is better than risking it all and losing big. You know what I'm saying? So let's continue to talk about this. I mean, we're not voting today. So let's continue to talk about this and flesh it out. If you have ideas about this, Put it on our Facebook wall. Email us at presentpilgrimage@gmail.com.
And someday soon we're going to go live, right?
Someday
we'll
soon.
go live.
Scary, scary, scary. So thank you for listening in.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.